a couple of things here. One is, I think about it, the first meeting of the church, there was 13 people in our basement of the house that the district had rented for us. And that after that, we began to plan for the future and move on. And then people just got engaged. I was thinking there's a lot of the mission board also kind of set a mission for us because besides the buying of the land and building a building as we did back then, they had goals, growth goals and financial goals that they had established. And so we looked at those and kind of said, okay, how can what can we do about this? And so we started, well, the big thing was getting the building built. And that's just the way they did things. I remember having pictures of us. We bought the land. We bought it from an attorney who was convinced that hole in the background was by a meteorite. And because he had a rock on his desk, it was all taped together, and it was a igneous rock around a sedimentary rock, and he was convinced that I walked around that property, I don't know how many times, looking for another igneous rock, and I never found one. But we began to do things on the property, had picnics there, things like that to kind of get people connected to the property. And had a bonfire out there, youth kind of events. And so that's and then so people got involved. I mean, there's just a number of families early on that took ownership of doing things. And I don't know if it's still hanging up in the attic of the church, but if you go up there, you might find out. There was a big banner we put up once that just had all the favorite hymns of people, and you could put your verses up there. So there were things we did to try to get people involved and connected. We had a very involved youth group. There were a lot of youth that came, and so we started things like that. We went canoeing in the in the upper part of Michigan. So that was a big thing that we did annually. So that got kids and parents involved. I tell you stories about that, but yeah, that was, I remember one, for example, I remember somebody's having an uncomfortable time sleeping that he found out they put the tent over a hammer. And they're trying to sleep on a hammer. So that didn't work well. But that was a lot of fun. It just kind of brought some cohesiveness and fun and everything else. So we did that a number of times. And then eventually, we had 2 DCEs in time just for that after we started with quite active lay people involved. And then another kind of interesting story was somebody, I don't remember who, gave us a Hammond organ. And people accused it of being a roller rink organ. And then I made some comments about it. And then one Sunday it quit in church. And so people accused me of sabotaging it because I made so many negative comments about it. And which I did not do it. But what that convinced, so right away we decided to buy well, it wasn't a real pipe organ, but it had the speakers and such in the bass and all that. And it was amazing how people rallied around. I think the organ was about 25,000, and we raised the money and bought it, and so moved on from there. I mean, just those kind of things that happened. And as I mentioned, the cross on the behind the altar was donated by a family, and another family kind of expanded upon it to make it larger. Things like that continued. We had, I intentionally, when we built the church, we had dimmers on the switches. So then, like for Good Friday, we would have these services where it's gradually dim the lights as and I'd mark them all for the elders so they can know not to dim them too much too quickly. So there were a lot of things that went into the building, and then we quickly added on to it because we needed more space. Then added on to it again and again. But so it was a lot of people involved, and in that whole there was a fellow there in our church who sold former all tractors. And so he brought one over, and bulldoze off the side of the hill. And then we put all these benches in and an altar down there. So we had outdoor worship services. I remember at least one wedding down there. So it was just a lot of people got involved early on with the ministry and reaching out to people around. So, yeah.